You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane. We're talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And spring, the perfect weather is here. This is what we've been living for. I finally started to break out the short pants instead of the long jeans and heavy extra layers. And it's just, once I start to put on my more outdoorsy spring, summer clothing, I never go back. I just won't do it. It can be blizzard condition. I'll still have the shorts on and the lighter shoes, and I might have extra layers on, but this is the key, the core, the start of the planting season. There are some things, though, I need to forewarn you of. This is especially important for you newer folks. This is your first season or two growing in the mountains of Arizona. Don't let the weather lull you into planting your summer plants yet. Now, bear with me. It's okay. We've got geraniums and petunias. We've got all the herbs. We've got the cool season vegetables. We've got all the perennials that you can plant now that are starting to come up. Some are even starting to bloom. These are things that love the spring season. It is nice out during the day, but the nights are still chilly. You walk outside and you'll need a jacket on, a vest, something, another layer on to be comfortable. Your summer plants are just like you. If you're comfortable out there at midnight, 10 o'clock, first thing in the morning, and you're warm and okay, so will your tomatoes. So will your basil. So will your zinnias. So will your other summer kind of plants. These plants love the heat of day. Brighter, warmer, the better. And at night, they never want to be chilled. If you need a jacket on to keep warm at 2 o'clock in the morning, so will your tomato plants. So I'm starting to see, I'm letting you know. My name's Ken. I'm your friend. We're just neighbors talking across the fence line, and here's some things I've seen happen in my own gardens. And already you're seeing at the big box stores, the chains, they've already got tomatoes and basil out. Let me advise you, don't plant those yet. Yeah, maybe one or two to put in a barrel where you can bring it indoors every night. Maybe if you've got a greenhouse, go ahead, you're fine. But our last average frost for the mountains of Arizona, this is most of us. Now, you folks in the really high elevations, Flagstaff, the White Mountains, the Williams, the 6,500 foot and above, Groom Creek, your last frost is typically the middle to the end of May. For those of us in this central highlands area, Payson to Prescott Valley, this Pauldens, where the average frost is about Mother's Day. For you folks down in the lower elevations, let's say Kingman's and you're down towards the Cottonwoods, Camp Verdes, Sedonas, maybe you're the end of April. But still, that's number of weeks for all of us. It's a number of weeks off. We can have more cold nights to come. Just because the day is warm does not mean the nights are warm. So my advice to you is don't plant warm, summer-loving plants yet. Wait. Wait until the end of this month. Wait until the 1st of May. I won't even get most of my garden planted till the end of May, June. I'll wait for the soil to warm up because those tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, your zinnias, your all neobergias, all of those summer lovers, they prefer not just the nights to be warm, but the soil to be warm. And that takes more than 1 week of nice weather to do. So I see the mistake going to happen. It's going to happen again. You'll be at the grocery store, at the drugstore, at the box store, at the mart or whatever, and you'll see them all displayed because their buyer said, send 100 of those to every one of my stores in Arizona. And it's fine in Phoenix. It's fine in Tucson. It's fine in Yuma. It's not fine if you're listening up in the mountains of Arizona. You need to hold off. It's good. You can plant full on. You should have your peas in the ground. You should have lettuce, cucumber, spinach. All the spring lovers Plant them right now. They'll love this weather. They love bright days, warm days, and chilly nights. The flavor is better when you do that. Your geraniums, they'll flush out and grow like crazy. Pansies, violas. There's so many things you can have now. Just make sure that you're planting spring plants, because we're only in the spring season. It's not the full planting season. We're talking just the spring things go in right now, because we will see some more chilly nights. It may or may not freeze, but it will definitely probably frost, and it will definitely be cold. Your basil doesn't like to be below 45 degrees at night, and it wants the soil to be up in the 50, 60 degree temperature. It likes warm. It loves the heat. It loves the brightest, warmest, reflective heat off of your gardens. I'd say your tomatoes, eggplants, cucumbers, watermelons, they're all the same. So this is important. You folks have been gardening for a while. You understand. It's the new folks. This is your first season or two, and you're thinking this is how it will stay for the rest of the planting season. That is not true. It won't happen. 100 years of data. We've been tracking this, and the last frost date, not freeze, frost date, the last bit of cold that hits the mountains, at least in the Central Highlands area, especially Prescott, Chino Valley, Paulden, Prescott Valley, this area, is the first week in May. Some years it's the last week in April. Some years it's the middle. I've seen it snow on Mother's Day before. It's happened, and it can happen this year. So don't think this is going to happen. Just forewarning, I don't want to get on my soapbox. And I don't want to go so far as to say the novice gardeners, the people that only plant a tomato plant and a pepper plant, and that's all they ever do, they'll go, oh, you can't plant anything. No, wait till Mother's Day. They don't understand there's multiple seasons you can plant. This is a great time to be planting herbs. Tremendous, probably the ideal time to be planting fruit trees, berries, grapes. It's the best time. Your lilacs, you'll have the best selection and the most varieties by planting them now, because they're just about to start to show color. And so then there'll be this mad dash where everyone will want one of those, what their neighbors have. And so garden centers, we all load up. We front load the garden centers with as many varieties and colors and flavors and fragrances as we can, because we know there's going to be this onslaught of gardeners wanting a lilac of their own. And so we've got more selection, more variety. We'll have them. We sell lilac throughout the entire year, but we may only have the common lilac or less selection or only a certain size as we fade out as we get into summer and fall. Right now, spring, time to plant them. We've got the most varieties, including the French varieties. Those are the really striking, bright colors that show up. The purples and the bright reds. Very unusual colors. The French lilacs don't have as much fragrance, but they have the colors going for them. Every variety of common lilac there is, from the blue sky to the Mr. Lincoln to your commons, and to the repeat blooming varieties. They call it the bloomerang. So it's a blooming, but it repeat blooms, much like a rose. It flushes new growth and it takes a break. Flushes again and takes a break. Flushes again. Mine bloomed 3 times last year, and we've got a new pink variety this year. Generally, we've just had that violet color. So now we've got kind of that bluey, purpley color, and we've got a pink. So you got more selection. And we will run out of bloomerangs, and there won't be any more. These are finite crops. You have so many, you try to guesstimate how many you're going to need. You grow that many, and then once that crop is out, there might be some left on the open market, but usually not, because it's not just Arizona, the mountains of Arizona that want lilac when they bloom. It's the entire country. From here through the entire Midwest, East Coast, and they quickly get absorbed and they take a long time to grow. And so it'll be until next year or later this fall when the new crops start to come up. So just be aware. Average frost, last frost is the end of this month, the 1st of May. And so don't be tempted. Don't get sucked into planting your summer vegetables too early. I've seen them show up at other box stores. Don't make a mistake. Be right back.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Waters here with this week's Plant of the Week and our show-off for Forsythias.
A new standout forsythia with very large, very bright solar yellow flowers that adorn the plant from head to toe.
Relax. This showy spring shrub is beautiful and requires no pruning or cleanup.
This show-off is just days away from bloom and limited, so don't wait until these forsythia are all gone at just $21.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Where people who love show-off forsythia love to shop. In a new place, it's difficult to know who to trust, how to get help at the house, and which nursery will simply do what they say they'll do.
At Waters Garden Center, we're here to help, in the landscape at least.
Our team of plant ambassadors know your neighborhood, the plants that add color, increase privacy, and add fragrance and beauty.
And we can show you exactly how to plant locally, or we have teams to do all the work for you.
We are Ken and Lisa Lane, and we guarantee our plants will live up to every promise here at Waters Garden Center.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She brings your garden questions every week. And it's just good to tune in and listen to what other folks are asking so you can learn from that. And so we try to share that. So welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
So Easter's all done. Family parties are done.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be with you.
I know. I think it's the smallest Easter dinner we've ever had, family-wise.
I feel bad, although I felt really good. I might be going to hell. I don't know, but I didn't go to church. Well, I did go to church with the kids.
You did.
So when I was in El Paso, Texas, with the kids, so I flew down. Here's what's going on in the Waters world. It's a garden center owners. Here's small business. We're having to divide and conquer like we do every spring. And so the growing division, we plant and deliver for folks. So big tree, big spruce, you just can't handle it. You can't handle it yourself. I mean, I don't even plant it myself. I have the team do it for me. Well, that doubled last year. It looks like it's going to double again this year. I had to go get a new truck, and I'm too cheap to buy a new one. So I found
call that thrifty.
A good steward of what God's given us, kind of stuff. So we found a great used truck down in Corpus Christi. The perfect platform, perfect lift gate, perfect length. It's diesel. It's got everything we need. So I flew down to Corpus Christi last Friday, and then drove up to Austin. That's about 3 hours north of Austin's about 3 hours north of Corpus Christi. Flew in that morning, went to go see the kids in Austin, took them to dinner, our daughter, and then spent the night, ran across West Texas, which is a monotonous, boring trip. Oh my gosh. Forever you drive to get to the other end of Texas. Spent Saturday and Sunday, Easter, with the kids there. I've got a daughter and son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandkids. So I went to church. Monday came back and then brought the truck back. So, and it's a commercial truck. Just beat me up. Just 1 ton, vinyl seats, no luxuries whatsoever.
Gotten spoiled in your little poopy car.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be home. Sorry I missed you, but
it was fun. We had my parents and my sister, and it's very quiet, very relaxing. I didn't have to do much. It's kind of nice.
That's actually a small ham and a small casserole and a few
much.
Rolls.
I mean, I'm used to cranking out our dinner table, which fits 30-some people.
Yeah, that's right.
At it, and but it was nice.
Tuesday came in and unloaded a full semi, 2 of truck, just like got back and like full on spring everything. So but it's nice. It's the energy is felt. The weather's back. Had a record Saturday for a March last.
It was cranking
week. It was really cranking. So well done.
Thank you.
So what do we got? We got questions this week, or what's going on in the garden community?
So Catherine would like to know. She's been in. She sees that we have aspen in clumps where there's 3 or 4 in a bucket, and then we have singles. Is one preferable over the other?
Okay.
And then how close together can you plant those?
Well, those are good questions. So you'll see them at the garden center. Now, how to explain this, how to tackle that question. It's a complicated question. Aspens naturally grow in clusters. That's how they like. You go up to Williams, Flag area, Mount St. Francis. They're growing wild, and they're growing in clusters. That's how they naturally want to grow. If you plant a single, it will want to sucker or come up in other parts of the garden or landscape naturally. It's just the way they are programmed. And so aspens are some of the oldest living organisms. So you'll find that an aspen is related DNA-wise to another grove, to across the grove that's maybe 10 acres away. Mm-hmm. They're all related. So they're all joined together. They're social, they're family oriented, they like to be together. If you have a single, there's naturally going to be some maintenance. It'll want to come up other places. Just don't let it do that. Take a shovel and pop that root, and it will stop that growth. I would say if you're really wanting to go single clump, and we sell both, I might be shooting myself in the foot. If I were doing it myself, because I don't like maintenance in the landscape, I'd probably plant a birch. It's better at growing individually by itself than an aspen does. You just got in some magnificent, probably 14, 15-foot aspen clusters that just came in. That's how they naturally want to grow. I would say, look to aspens to do that. You'll be happier and less maintenance. Your gardener will be happier, landscape maintenance guys. With that being said, watch what kind of aspen you're buying. So many ranches, we're into development right now. So a ranch will subdivide, start putting up houses, and they'll harvest that aspen cluster. So they'll have cowboys out there, and they'll just dig them up, or ranchers with a backhoe, they'll just dig them up. So you get these real rough, uneven, natural, looking aspen clusters. Don't plant those. They don't transplant well. Often you lose one of those multiple stems. One of the trees will die in that cluster. What you really want is a farmer that's actually taken bare root aspens, and they've plugged 2 or 3 or 4 of these perfectly shaped aspens. They may not be related to each other, but they're perfect. And then they overroot and they intertwine, they root out all together. So they become a family or cluster, and they're much more cookie cutter, perfectly shaped. And you'll get every single one of those units, so one of those trees in that cluster to live 100% of the time. So I'd say suggest that. We stopped selling those wild harvested clusters years ago because we just struggled to keep them consistently alive and growing. They'll be happier being grown together in a farm setting. Anyway, too much on aspen. Too much detail.
I'm sitting there going, now I'm confused, but we'll move on. If you have questions, come in and talk to us.
We have a whole bunch. There's hundreds of them out there. Plant a cluster for aspens. Plant a single birch. There you go.
Gotcha. Okay. Hal lives up in the ranch area, and he has a row of Leland cypress. One of those cypresses is just not looking well. Branches are kind of yellowing, dying off. He's going to water. Just wants to know what he can do to help that one.
Boy, we predict within the next 10 years, all of the Leland cypress will be dead. There's a disease called, think of the Black Plague. The plague is going through Leland cypress, and we're seeing entire neighborhoods wiped out. If they have a row of them and one is struggling, I'm guessing it's the Leland blight. And I'm guessing that it will actually spread up and down the line. And eventually I hate to say this, eventually you're going to lose the entire probably cluster. And usually we planted those in years past for privacy screens and windbreaks. You're going to lose that. So keep it fertilized, keep it watered, keep it as healthy as you can, and keep it living as long as you can. You can get several years out of it, but eventually this disease will take the tree, it girdles the tree, and it just dies. When that happens, don't plant another Leland cypress. We've stopped selling them here at Waters Garden Center because it's just a curse to do that. Within 5-10 years, it will die on you. That's not right. So we're selling Arizona cypress. It does not get that disease. Far better choice, and I think it's hardier. It's the native of that particular cypress family. Arizona cypress and Leland cypress, they're cousins of each other. The Lelands are more green. The Arizona has more of a Arizona blue color, as you would expect. So the color is different, but it still grows to 20, 25 feet tall, 12 feet thick. It's solid, so you're not going to see through it. It just forces the wind to stop right there at that row of screening plants. Great for Paulden, Prescott, any of the valley areas where you got some real wind up on the hilltops, which is probably what the ranch is doing. And the wind just ripping over that hilltop, and they were using it to cut the wind. It's great for that. I think the Arizona cypress is better for that. And once you get it up to size, you can cut it off of all care. No irrigation, just let it go on its own. I'd force it to grow until then, just get it up to size till you. Anyway, Leyland cypress, it's going to die. Sorry. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back on the Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
In a new place, it's difficult to know who to trust, how to get help at the house, and which nursery will simply do what they say they'll do.
At Waters Garden Center, we're here to help, in the landscape at least.
Our team of plant ambassadors know your neighborhood, the plants that add color, increase privacy, and add fragrance and beauty.
And we can show you exactly how to plant locally, or we have teams to do all the work for you.
We are Ken and Lisa Lane, and we guarantee our plants will live up to every promise here at Waters Garden Center.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
A couple things that came up with just talking with customers. I mean, believe it or not, I do actually roam the sales floor here at the garden center, Waters Garden Center. Not always. I mean, this season I got to wrap up. This week I think I got to wrap up taxes, and launch a new employee handbook. That means talking to attorneys. I do a lot of different things a lot of hats as a small business owner. But what I really love to do, my passion, when I get super stressed, I just can't handle attorneys and billable hours and training of staff anymore. I walk out, and my decompression, my relaxation is just talking gardening to customers. I had a good friend, a gardener, come in, a regular here. He started talking. His wife goes, I won't mention his name because, stop talking. Ken doesn't care. I'm going, yeah, I do. Actually, gardeners love talking gardening. It's just kind of therapy for me. I like that. I like hearing your successes or your struggles or how I've done and just comparing notes. That's gardening. That's why gardening is so social. And so I was out talking. I was out re-merchandising all the berries. So we got a whole load of blackberries and raspberries and boysenberries and grapes and all this stuff. I was kind of organizing them, getting them where they look really good. Fancy new tables to display them so they're less complicated. Well, I was out helping some customers with fruit trees because it's right next door. All the edible plants are right there. There's probably, a quarter, half an acre of nothing but edible plants. Talking nuts. I should make you aware, if you're from other areas, there's really only two kinds of nuts that grow in the mountains. You folks in the lower elevation, Skull Valley, Hillside, Kirkland, even going down towards, not by the river, probably more like Sedona, the higher elevations of cottonwoods. I mean, there's some areas where it's finally warm enough to grow pecans, but really the rest of us, we don't grow pecans. The tree will grow and thrive, but it won't produce nuts. It'll be a pretty shade tree. It just won't put the nuts. You're planting a nut tree for walnuts and almonds. Those are the two nuts that really, really just consistently, any elevation, they just consistently thrive. From all the way west to the river, Kingman, those areas, all the way over to, I'm not sure high elevation they'll go, but pretty high. They'll go cold. And so walnuts grow wild in the mountains of Arizona. But you don't want to plant the Arizona walnut. It's messy. The nut on it is so delicious. Oh, it melts in your mouth. My mouth's watering just thinking about it. But the nut is so thick you can't get to the fruit. It's ridiculous. So then it just drops fruit. You can't get to it. It's messy. You want to go with the Carpathian walnut. It's the soft-shelled. It's the walnut that you split and crack, and delicious during the holidays. It's a really good, big nut, fleshy, easy to get to kind of nut, and it grows in the mountains of Arizona. The other one are the almonds, and you don't think of growing almonds as much, but almonds produce really, really well in the mountains of Arizona. Beautiful pink flower. They're starting to bloom now, and then it just loads up with all these almond nuts. Consistent. It's a small tree. Walnuts are large trees, big shade trees, whereas almonds are smaller, more like maybe like a peach tree size, an apricot or plum tree. It's a smaller fruiting plant size. It's good for almost any kind of yard. You could grow it in a container, a bigger container, raised bed, or right out there in the yard. It will produce very well. Great fall color. It's got a lot going on for it, and it produces nuts. Those are the only two really good nut trees from the mountains of Arizona. The rest of them, I keep helping folks wanting nuts or fruiting plants. Maybe just helping more customers with fruiting, fruit trees. That nuts are on their radar. You can also grow exceptionally good blackberries and raspberries. Oh, a note on that. Some of you are coming in with your first-time home buyers, maybe a little bit smaller yard. You've downsized, and you don't have the space you had before. If you're doing that, I have had great success with your dwarfed size brambles. They make a shrub raspberry. I have it in a great big pot. It's beautiful. Produces a lot of fruit. It's called raspberry shortcake. Whereas most of your raspberries are big, brambling, climbing things. They take over. Small children, dogs have been lost in raspberry and blackberry plants. They're just too big for many parts of the yard. The raspberry shortcake is not, and it produces the same fruit. It's more of a shrub. It could be right there by your patio in a container, raised bed, and not take over. The other new variety of blackberry, it's called, let me think here, baby cakes. Baby cakes blackberry. It's new this year. Again, it's a dwarf, shrubby, more shrubby-like blackberry, yet it produces that great big melt-in-your-mouth blackberry bush. You folks from the Northwest, you realize blackberries they're almost a weed. This one is much easier to confine, to control, and it won't take over the yard. So those are two kind of edible advice things I can give to you that'll make a difference even in the smallest yards or the biggest of yards. They're just easier to maintain. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Growing up in Prescott, we knew spring was here when my grandmother's lilacs bloomed. I'm Lisa Waters Lane, and my grandma would be thrilled with the new Bloomerang pink perfume lilacs at Waters Garden Center. New pink blooms fill the landscape with fragrance of grandma over and over again in the garden. Mine bloomed 3 times last year, making spring last well into fall, all for under $25. Lilacs like grandma used to grow, and better. Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio, and she comes and just shares her thoughts, her garden experience, her tips, her design flair, and she does have a flair with the audience. And so the whole segment is just about her and her gardens and how I get to prep all the soil and drip systems for her before she plants it.
That's true. Yeah. I'll admit that is true.
First time I've ever heard that. It's exciting news. It's a breakthrough. It's all that therapy we've been going to.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, I was working in the yard on Sunday. You were out of town. And I wanted to spruce up some of the pots in the yard while you were gone because I had time. And I was like, I wish Ken was here. I was trying to get this one of our old pots. I wanted to refresh it. So I was pulling out a grass we had in there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I probably worked 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just
Yeah.
trying to get that out of there. It's crazy.
They sure look good, though. Boy,
Yeah.
fresh, new spring flowers. All the old, dry, crusty things are gone.
They
Fresh,
are.
new, vibrant, I'm happy you're home flowers out. And shrubs. You've got
Yeah.
all kinds of mixture of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I
New
like to
new
mix it.
pots out there, new cacti and succulents, and looks fabulous.
Well, thank you, darling.
So, what do you have for us? What are you sharing with the audience this week? So, local gardeners need to know.
It's time to start planting your herbs.
Okay,
Time to get
good.
those in. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful time to start planting, especially some of those hardier herbs that are perennial. They're going to come back year after year after year. In fact, we've even put in a thyme lawn. So we've used the herb, the creeping thyme, as a lawn. We got rid of our lawn, I don't know, how many years ago now?
When the kids finally went off to college, the last
Yeah.
kid went to college, we said, I'm not mowing anymore. I still have an electric lawnmower because you still got to mow a thyme lawn just to keep it manicured.
Sure.
Maybe twice a year, if that. But you're not mowing every week and far less water.
Oh, yes, substantially. So, yeah, we put a creeping thyme lawn in, and it's beautiful and easy care. Now, we're not necessarily out there picking it to use in our cooking. We would use more of a culinary thyme. So, at French thyme, English thyme, lemon thyme, there's a bunch of different thymes. So, depending upon how you want to use it in your yard is going to depend on the type that you buy.
Yeah, lawns. I think we should plant more lawns. Here, this is sacrilege to our, no water use. Shut the doors. We don't want any more growth kind of folks. But thyme lawns are so efficient on the watering. They use a fraction, a tenth of the water that a grass lawn does. Yet it's green. It's almost a darker green. It's almost like a blue green, and then it blooms.
Yeah.
Your lawn that blooms, it's magnificent. And when the dogs roll and frolic in it, they smell like herbs, not like whatever dogs smell like when they get wet.
And the thing, it is tough because our dogs are on it quite a bit.
They are, yeah.
And it just holds up really nicely.
Yeah. A little harder to keep the poopsie,
you gotta-
out, but you get a feel for it, and we don't harvest that one to eat. In the backyard, we have the culinary herbs in a container that's
Right.
more that I used to grill with, that kind of stuff. But yeah, great herbs.
Yeah. And the other thing about herbs is so wonderful is they can grow in the ground. They can grow just as well in containers.
Yeah.
So very nice to mix. You can grow 2 or 3 different kinds in a container. Maybe you want that by your front door. If you use a lot of rosemary, a lot of thyme, you could easily mix those two together in a pot. They'd be very happy.
Tastes so much better. Fresh herbs, so much better. Yes, you can get what appears to be fresh in the grocery stores or Sprouts, whatever, but it was picked last week or the week before, and it appears to be fresh. It still doesn't taste like I picked it like moments ago and now I'm using it on the grill or in the recipes. It's just better fresh. I would also say that as a landscape plant, so many times we got this raised bed and we need to soften up those edges, timbers and block.
Right.
To have a creeping thyme that flows over, creeping rosemary that
Rosemary.
flows over, it just looks so good. And so easy and mostly evergreen. A lot of these herbs they hold their foliage year round.
In fact, I don't know if you noticed, but I put 4 creeping rosemaries in. We have some raised beds, and I put it on the lower one to kind of soften the wall there. So they haven't quite creeped down, but they will, and they'll be gorgeous. I don't
Good.
think you've noticed yet. I kind of snuck those in on you.
You're wanting me to pull that bear grass out because you're tired of that. You want the creeping rosemary to take
Yes,
over.
I do.
I'm game. I'm bored with them anyway. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Ooh,
Well-
you heard him, folks. He said he would do it.
Let me take a closer look. Okay. Yeah. I'm in.
Another one that would be really pretty draping over a wall would be the oreganos. So the oreganos are real low growing and they kind of spread out. There's a golden oregano that's absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of almost a chartreuse green color. Makes a beautiful ground cover. And tough and very water wise. I mean, it's easy to overwater them.
Yeah. We have one of our rentals that we have. We have some real estate around, like a lot of folks. And I wanted something tough but pretty that the renters can't kill, basically. And so we put that chartreuse, the golden oregano, and we treat it like any shrub in the yard. We treat this not like a flower, but like a shrub. And it's gold. It's right there as the renters brush up against, or any visitor brushes up against it, smells of oregano, they could use it as a culinary herb. But then we have javelina that go through that particular landscape. They don't bother it. They just totally leave it alone, whereas they were ripping up other stuff. But the oregano, the rosemaries, the gopher plants, things we have planted there, they've ignored it. It's great.
Yeah, so if you have animal problems, putting in herbs or anything in the herb family will help you tremendously. You won't have that grief anymore of them eating everything.
They might root it up just to see what's underneath the roots.
Yeah.
But they won't eat the plant itself.
Right.
Like, why? I don't know. We like it, but
I think it's the
they
smell.
don't.
I think it's just
So
too strong for them.
Yeah.
I've
guessing. Used in the front planters some society garlic, which is kind of an herb. It's not really culinary, but it is an herb. It's pretty.
Right.
It blooms a long time. I use that to disguise the fragrance of pansies and violas, some things they like, and it's worked quite effectively.
I could see that. It's very fragrant.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, great out in the landscape. I wouldn't put society garlic by my front door.
It's by the garage.
Yeah,
at least it's persnickety. Can I say that?
It smells garlicky.
Okay. I like this.
Someday when
garlic.
we have time, I'll tell our society garlic story. But sages, there's many, many sages, from the culinary sage that you're going to use in your cooking, which come in variegated colors. They come in a purple and just the regular green. But also don't forget things like the autumn sage, because that is in that same family and very resistant for the critters.
Yeah, I think every yard should have at least one autumn sage, or Salvia gregii is the other name, because hummingbirds love it. It blooms from April through October, November.
Frost,
It's drought hardy. Animals don't eat it. It's got everything you need. Now, it's not a culinary thing. It's just made to be beautiful in the yard as a kind of a knee-high shrub. And they're doing so hardy that we're trying to introduce new colors. So we got a new bright red, a new purple, ignition purple. There were some of apricots, pinks, all the above.
You name it, we'll have the color. Yellow. I haven't seen yellow yet, though.
Chris is working on it. He's working on it. Yep.
So it's getting close to time to put in your annual herbs. Annual means you get one season out of them, and then they're done. But that would be your basil, cilantro, just those more tender ones. But they just produce so readily that you can put one or two in and have enough for everybody.
That's true. I would also say, let's say mints. I noticed you had chocolate mint, orange mint, spearmint, peppermint,
pineapple mint.
Yeah, we're famous for our herbs, so we dominate herbs. They're all organic. They're all safe. All of our vegetables are non-GMO, organic. So you can go walk to the herbs and taste. Try it. Smell it, rub up against it, see if you like it. Feel free. We encourage tasting through our herbs because they're safe to do that. Not everyone can say that. There's still companies putting nicotinoids and all kinds of crazy stuff they shouldn't be doing. Not us. We're all organic. And so try it. It's time to plant herbs. We're in good herb country. But spring is a time for herbs. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
High waters with the plants of the week and our stormy orange flowering quince.
Orange Storm produces spectacular flowers with intense orange color your mother only dreamt of.
This new quince is thornless, produces no fruit, and easy to grow.
Growing only hip-high, this deer-proof shrub loves hot sun, lives on little to no water, all for under $36.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love stormy orange shrubs, they love to shop.
Ouch! Aw, man, another rock! Hi, I'm Rusty. You know, the shovel you're destroying trying to dig that hole? Sure, I get it. You got these beautiful plants at Waters Garden Center. Waters asked if they could plant them for you. But no, you had to do it yourself, even though they would plant, deliver, and guarantee your plants for 2 years. I hope I don't end up like that old pickaxe. Ouch! Prevent yard tool abuse. Waters Garden Center. They plant, deliver, and guarantee.
All right, so we are back on the Mountain Gardener. What a privilege. Oh my gosh, this is going to be exciting. We have a garden expert. I mean, like one of the best garden creators, not creators, plant breeders, finders of new life and introduce them throughout the Southwest. Chris Shipley owns Savano's Nursery down in Tucson. He's a friend, but he also grows for us all of our Southwestern-looking plants, the funky, fun, drought-hardy xeric. He's our go-to guy. And so he was up here at the garden center and said, Chris, you've got to take a moment. Can you give us 10 minutes of your time so we can suck your brain dry of plant knowledge? And so he agreed. Welcome to the studio, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me.
So how are the sales going? What are the trends? What are you seeing in the Southwest? Because you're supplying nurseries from Texas to San Diego and everything in between, but
True.
You're an Arizona-based company.
That's right. We're fortunate enough to be wanted in 6 states and
Awesome.
and sell into lots of independent garden centers. And trends are smaller trees,
Okay.
cleaner trees, trees that have benefits to hummingbirds and wildlife, and drought-tolerant plants in general.
We are seeing the same thing here in Prescott. So you're seeing that same trend, though,
All
in
over.
Austin, Texas, as well as El Paso, as well as Albuquerque to obviously Phoenix.
To San Diego.
Really? Same
Yep.
trend.
Yep. Low water plants that benefit the environment, benefit our water table, are wanted all of a sudden all over the Southwest. And it's not just in the desert anymore. So California is on board. Texas is on board with saving water and helping the environment. Lower fertilizer that's beneficial, not as harsh on the planet, their water systems, and smaller yards and plants that are easy to take care of, and that's what I'm seeing.
So now, what are some of the plants? Like one that I'll bait you a little bit. I love that new desert willow you guys came out with. You created this, right? You found
did.
it, patented it, introduced it. Now you're growing, and now we have access to it at the grower level. Can you tell us, how do you find new life? And
Sure.
how do you patent it? And how many years does it take to grow something like that?
It certainly does take some time. We're very interested in finding new cultivars, new plants, new trees. All the time we're looking. And one day my brother, Nick, who is our grower, was walking through our 10,000 desert willows, and he saw one that was different. And it caught his eye, and he brought it out from that area of the nursery and made us all look at it. And we all agreed that it's just a very different and beautiful tree. We planted it in the ground, watched it for a couple of years, saw its habit, and we just fell in love with it. His wife is named Katie, and he called it Sweet Katie.
Oh, that's awesome! Really? So it's
Yeah.
a desert willow.
Desert willow.
Sweet Katie desert willow. Is
Yes.
that in layman's term? What's the botanical name?
Chalopsis Sweet Katie.
Gotcha.
Linearius,
So-
Chalopsis Linearius Sweet Katie.
So now we grow desert willow throughout the mountains of Arizona. They just grow wild from Kirkland
Right.
to all the way to Dewey and everywhere in between. Payson, we just grow wild desert willows. Why is Sweet Katie different or better or unique, or what did you see?
Most desert willows are very open and a little rangy, and flowering is weak. So this one, very symmetrical, tight branching, a little smaller, more compact, flowering deep burgundy, like a almost fluorescent burgundy flower. And this compact shape just lends itself with this dark burgundy flower to people's smaller yards. And people always want pretty. And this really delivers that statement. It is a pretty tree. So we went to work cloning it. It also has low seed production. It does have some seed production, but since it flowers so much, it doesn't have time to seed. So it's
Interesting.
a low seeded, symmetrical desert willow, Sweet Katie, and we had invited Monrovia to come over and look at our nursery, and they saw this tree and they just fell in love with it. So we partnered up with Monrovia and they are the only other provider in the Southwest of this tree.
Of your tree.
Yes.
You patented it, though.
We patented.
And then you're
It's my
allowing them
tree.
to grow it. You
Yeah.
grow it, and now it goes national.
Now it goes national.
So you're going to be a very wealthy man shortly.
There you go.
So that sounds good.
It does sound good.
How many millions
I'm
you have
on
to
board.
sell to?
Yeah.
So desert willow is you'll root it out. Once it's rooted, you could probably cut it off of
Water.
and it will just go by itself naturally. So now you can travel and come back, and the plant's still alive. Even if
Correct.
the drip system collapsed on you, it would still thrive there. And it's a hummingbird plant.
It's
I
a
find.
total hummingbird plant.
Yeah.
So it's great. You will have hummingbirds to your property. You have a low water, beautiful tree all year round. It's just a stunning tree.
So Miss Katie, Desert Willow, we've got it here at Waters Garden Center. You're starting to introduce this only at independent garden centers. So you
Right.
only find it at your local independent guy. One thing I do want to ask you, and it's been bugging me, your Arizona cypress that you grow, that 15-gallon Arizona cypress, this is one that grows wild again because fits your build,
Right.
is so blue. I don't know how you get this tree to be so blue. It grows up. How do you do that?
It must be in the water. It just happens.
I figured you put
every time.
fairy dust or something in the water or something.
It just happens. My brother, he doesn't always divulge all the secrets to me. So I have a big mouth.
There is
apparently.
something about a grower
Yeah.
that has that touch.
But his Arizona cypress that we produce are very symmetrical, very dense, and very fast growing. For the homeowner, it's an easy transition into their yard when they want to block a view or block some wind, make a hedgerow, just a screen, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful tree, a native tree for that.
Yeah, it grows wild,
Yeah.
Baghdad to
Yes.
anywhere out in the mountains.
All of the mountains of Arizona.
Yeah. So
And I have moved large ones in place in the wild to growing small ones at our nursery and large ones at our nursery. So I'm very familiar with this plant.
Now, we have a lot of Arizona cypress. We get them from all over the Southwest, but yours outsells the others because the look. You must have. Is that a cloned plant, or are you doing that by seed?
Most of our plants are cloned.
They are cloned. So no wonder you found a perfect specimen.
Yes,
and explain to us, how do you clone a plant?
yeah, it's not as hard. Well, it is difficult. It is a challenge for sure. But what we do is we actually just take our pruning shears that all of us gardeners have. We take cuttings at appropriate times of the year of the tips of the branches, dip them in a hormone, and then put them into a sterile planting media. And then from there, it takes a lot of care and time and proper soil temperatures and misting in our really high-tech propagation baby seed farm facility.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's impressive. I've
Yeah.
had the personal tour. Super impressive growing propagation house. It's state of the art.
It is. It's brand new. We have a brand new facility, and we're very proud of it. And it just makes our job so much easier to have this infrastructure.
How long does it take to grow from that cutting stage, cloning stage, to plugging it, to get it up to that 6-7 foot high 15-gallon Arizona cypress?
I'm sure it must take at least 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, well, lastly, you've got one plant, a new ash tree that
Right.
we're going to introduce that this year. You are the one that introduced it. This is a short evergreen ash. Tell us about that. What's the name, and how did you find this?
Well, we it is Frax. It's a little leaf ash, cultivar name Libby Davidson, and it's a small tree, great for small yards. It's an evergreen tree. Only gets to about 16 feet tall, maybe 12 to 14 feet wide. And again, we were just wandering in the nursery amongst our 10,000 ash trees, and one was different again.
Oh,
so we
interesting.
weren't trying to genetically modify the tree or do anything funny like that. It's just nature gives us these
Sure.
new cultivars.
So the DNA within that plant stood out. And you as the gardener or the grower said, wow, that's
different.
unusual.
Yes.
That would be perfect for short front yard tree, containers, raised beds, by the mailbox, evergreen.
Evergreen.
Very few leafy trees are evergreen up here.
Correct.
And so now an ash tree naturalizes so well, so it can almost go by itself again once it's rooted out. So
Right.
now you've got a little tree by the driveway or the back patio that's easy to care for.
Easy to care for, small, very clean, drought tolerant, small little green leaves. Normally they're a little shrubby, a little on the yellowy side, grows slow. It is a small tree. This one, what we pulled it out, put it into the ground, watched it. It grew faster. It grew tree-like. It grows greener. It grows very tree-like. And so we've taken all the guesswork on how to make it into a nice small tree.
Yeah. What's the name again?
Little Leaf Ash, Libby Davidson.
Libby Davidson Ash. And only available here in the Prescott area at Waters Garden Center.
That is true.
Thanks so much. Chris Shipley with Sabano's Nursery, grower extraordinaire. Thanks so much, Chris. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Let's talk poop. Hey, I'm Tommy at Waters Garden Center. Ken and Lisa are out right now, so I snuck in to remind you that it's time to add some manure to your garden. It's been a wet winter, and your soil is, well, pooped. Waters Barnyard Manure adds nutrients to get your garden growing. It's organic and odorless, so we really can say our poop don't stink. Buy 6 bags or more. They're only $5.99. Now that's a load of crap.
Tommy, what's going on?
Oh, poop, gotta go. Natural, safe, odorless, and organic at Waters Garden Center.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our single blue pinyon pine.
This new blue variety lends to a tidy appearance in a bold, tough tree.
Highly desirable for its edible pine nuts, so eat up.
Let it grow wild. Or this 10-foot tree can be shaped for the holidays.
These perfectly formed trees are just $85 and only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Where people who love native pines and pine nuts, they love to shop. Okay, so some activities that are happening. This is getting exciting now. So the garden centers, the planting season kind of crescendos in the middle of May, and there's this ramp up. So we've been unloading so many plants. In fact, we just got some very large spruce, very large pine, very large cypress. New fruit trees just came in this week. More flowering purple leaf plum, that pink blooming flowering plant right now. Some beautiful specimens, nice trunk size. When you're planting new trees and shrubs or whatever it is, you're really not buying a plant. And I know this is going to help. Bear with me for just a moment. What you're really buying when you're buying plants at a garden center is a root. If you get the root right, the root is not root bound. It's got the right size root to support the top of that plant. If you get that right, gardening is super easy. Especially in a dry climate. If you've got a little tiny 6-pack, like I really don't plant 6-packs of things in my yard because the root ball is so small for this large plant. I just struggle to keep it watered. I like 4-inch to gallon size because I'm buying a root. Now I put that in the ground, and it's much easier to maintain that plant and get it to grow. Whereas many 6-packs, they sit there and they look at you. They're rooting, they're growing, but they don't grow on the top. The roots aren't mature enough to keep it growing. And so I tend to buy 4-inch because the root ball is big enough to just put it in the ground, and all of a sudden the thing explodes with new growth, whether it's in the ground or in a container, raised bed, wherever. It just explodes. It's just some insider things I've noticed that are my own experience. Same thing with fruit trees, any tree. The bigger the root, the more you can take that, cruise through the Panama Canal, come back and it's still alive. Even if the drip system, failed on you, it's got enough capacity with that root ball to support it. And so you get a bigger, faster growing type of plant. That goes for grapes, for whatever it is. The bigger the root, the more fudge factor, error factor you can make, and the faster it starts to root out and grow in your own yard. We go over this a lot in our garden classes. So this week it's on irrigation, so it's standing room only. This weekend it's crazy how many people show up for drip irrigation. Next week it's a really good one for new folks. It's gardening for newcomers, basically planting a device that works. And we go over a lot of this type of practical, common sense kind of gardening for the mountains of Arizona, how to deal with water, fertilization, plant size, what plants work. A lot of info goes out to those students that attend. That's April 14th at 9:30. And then April 21st, natives and low maintenance kind of plants. That'll be the 21st at 9:30. And then the last one of the season will be growing your own groceries. That's tomatoes. We'll go over all the edibles, how to get the most produce out of your gardens. So it's very informative. Come early because I tell you, some of these classes get packed. The tomato one, that's grow your own groceries, hundreds of people will be there, standing room only. I mean, show up early so you can get a parking space and then bring your own chair. It's that kind of energy that's behind it and extremely informative. Ken and Lisa Lane, we are here throughout the week at Waters Garden Center. Love to talk with you. Anyone that just has an interest in gardening or you just need to up your game, we're here for you at Waters Garden Center.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Ouch! Aw, man, another rock! Hi, I'm Rusty. You know, the shovel you're destroying trying to dig that hole? Sure, I get it. We got these beautiful plants at Waters Garden Center. Waters asked if they could plant them for you. But no, you had to do it yourself, even though they would plant, deliver, and guarantee your plants for 2 years. I hope I don't end up like that old pickaxe. Ouch! Prevent yard tool abuse. Waters Garden Center. They plant, deliver, and guarantee.
Autumn flowers are nice, but some are absolutely snaptastic.
Waters Orange Flame Snapdragon has been grown exclusively for the Prescott area.
And looks like the plant has orange flames licking the foliage. Snaptastic.
Snapdragons are a natural in mountain gardens with autumn blooms that snap back into bloom again in spring.
Just $7. You'll only find them at Waters Garden Center in Prescott, where garden flowers are snaptastically fun to play with.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.